Good morning. When Dr. Friedel approached me about this, he asked if I was willing to be the praised leader for this event. And then I looked at the program and I said, there's something more to this than what I thought. I thought, I'm happy to have people come up there and let me be the worshiped leader for the morning, and that's not what it meant. So I hope this will meet with Dr. Friedel's satisfaction, and we've had some conversations about it. Let us begin. Yesterday is the past. Tomorrow is the future. Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. The sentiment behind that quote is far more than 2,000 years old. It's a core teaching of the Stoic philosophers of that era: Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. Each of us lives now, Marcus Aurelius tells us. The rest has been lived or is impossible to see. Seneca, who's always more pointed, says, getting ready to start is what fools do. What habit will you set right today? Stoicism is a very practical philosophy, millennia old, focused on self-awareness, self-reflection, and a practice that leads to a fulfilling life. Eudaimonia, as the Greeks referred to it. Epictetus guides us. First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be. Zeno of Citium, probably the first of the Stoics, going back hundreds of years before the trio I mentioned, goes further. We conquer the world by conquering ourselves, he teaches us. How did I come to explore Stoicism? A little over a year ago, a friend of mine who's a bookstore owner on Long Island and a retired member of Congress developed a reading list around Stoicism. He found that there was a hunger for it. He taught a course at Cornell University, which quickly oversubscribed. He led a reading group in his bookstore, which quickly oversubscribed. What he found was that the people who were participating both in his course and in his program at his bookstore were looking for grounding, for practices, for guiding principles in a very, very turbulent time, no matter your perspective on those. So what are those principles? The Stoics urge that we live our lives personally, socially, civically, in accord with what they refer to as the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage. Human flourishing, again, eudaimonia, is achieved from practicing and living in accord with those four virtues. The flourishing life, the Stoic would say, is the virtuous life. Anybody know who said that? Me, but I kind of like that line, so I thought I would share it with you. I didn't think anybody, I thought if someone knows this, I've cribbed it from someplace else. That's good. Let's begin with wisdom. The first principle of which is acceptance. Acceptance of the dichotomy of control. The Stoic understands they do not control the world around them, only how they respond. Aurelius tells us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Epictetus adds, some things are beyond our control, others are not. But we let our happiness too often be driven by the things that we don't control. Wisdom, he says, rests in our response. Donald Robertson, a contemporary Stoic and actually a practicing psychologist, has written at length on this topic, and I'm going to paraphrase something Robertson has written. He wrote, whenever we notice ourselves becoming upset, we should ask whether that which concerns us is up to us. If not, we shouldn't assign it value in a way that causes upset. Ask instead what aspects of the situation are up to us. Think and act upon those. Marcus Aurelius, in writing about anger, and I love this comment, wrote, "We are angry at the world," as if the world actually noticed. It's not what happens, Epictetus says, it's how we respond. The second component of wisdom also deals with acceptance, the acceptance of change and the permanence of change. The world is ever changing, and so are we. An earlier philosopher, Heraclitus, wrote, and I love this, this captures so much, "You never step in the same river twice. The river has changed, and so have you." The space between change and response is the opportunity for wisdom. The second virtue is justice. Aurelius considered it the highest virtue, and if one reflects, you quickly, I think, see why. Marcus Aurelius pointed out that wisdom and temperance and courage were really important, and that it really didn't matter if we did not use those virtues to pursue justice. He defined that very simply, thought and action resulting in the common good. Seneca is far more poetic and I would say inspirational. You have to live for others if you wish to live for yourself. But I think it's not one of the Stoic philosophers so much as the great American writer, James Baldwin, who bridged the dichotomy of control and the important virtue of justice. And bear with me because I'm going to read a brief passage from his Notes of a Native Son. And I think you'll see or hear what I mean. It began to seem that one would have to hold in the mind forever two ideas which seemed in opposition. The first idea was acceptance. The acceptance totally without rancor of life as it is and men as they are. In light of this idea, it goes without saying that injustice is a commonplace. But this did not mean that one could be complacent, for the second idea was of equal power, that one must never in one's own life accept these injustices as commonplace, but must fight them with all of one's strength. Baldwin bridges wisdom and justice. And his voice is also, I think, the voice of the third Stoic virtue, the virtue of temperance, or what Marcus Aurelius referred to, this would be a great bumper sticker, Marcus Aurelius referred to temperance as unrestrained moderation, a phrase that I love. A more contemporary description is doing the right things in the right amounts and in the right ways. Stoicism has a symbol for temperance. It's a wine goblet that is half full. That is the symbol of temperance in Stoic thinking. There's even another version of it. I'm not making this up. There's even another version of it with a wine goblet that's half full, but a hand pouring water into it to dilute the wine. It's a really interesting reflection on temperance. That symbolizes the need to curb, to temper, to limit our fears, our urges, our passions, our compulsions. Zeno describes fear and desire as commotions of the mind, another phrase that I love, and urges that we work to not be driven by those compulsions. Marcus Aurelius has a very concrete version of this when he wrote, "Be free of passion, but be full of love." Temperance may rest on a very simple principle. Abundance is having what is essential. That is temperance. The last of the four Stoic virtues is, of course, courage. Let me touch on what courage is not. It is not the absence of fear. It is not the absence of fear. Teddy Atlas, a very well-known boxing trainer whom some of you might be familiar with and others not, but Teddy Atlas once said, cowards and heroes feel the same emotions. Cowards and heroes feel the same emotions. Stoics do not believe we are beyond emotions or should be attempting to be beyond emotions. But what he added is, it's what we do with those fears that matters. There is a very modern Stoic adage, the obstacle is the way. When I first started to read about Stoicism, I thought, what does that mean? The obstacle is the way. What it means, I think, is using fear, misfortune, adversity to fuel a wise response, to turn trials into triumphs. What is to be done? Asked Epictetus. He responded to his own question, to make the best of what is within our power and to take the rest as it comes. Let me wrap up where I began just a few minutes ago. It is about you. It is about you. How and why and for whom you use your energy, your talent, and most especially, your time. Miles Davis says, time isn't the main thing, it's the only thing. And if any of you ever heard an interview with Miles Davis, you can just imagine him saying that. He probably said at the end, man. There is a Stoic expression, singular, succinct, and I think profound, from Latin. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. It is not meant to be morbid or fatalistic, although I think Seneca is both, frankly. It is not intended for that purpose. It is intended to inspire. It is intended to promote reflection. In his essay on the shortness of life, which is a central text of Stoicism, Seneca writes, "It is not necessarily that we are given too short a time, but that we waste so much of it." He adds, "Time is given to us for accomplishing great things, if the whole of it will be well invested." So the question I ask myself after having read Stoics for well over a year now is this: are you killing time? If so, time is killing you. Memento mori, we will die. Now I think you can see a service on Stoicism doesn't really lend itself to the rhythm and rhyme of call and response. There aren't many things that go along with memento mori. And it's hard to see the worship leader standing up here and going, "What do we seek?" and hearing the congregation respond, "Eudaimonia." "When do we seek it?" "In the present." And somebody stands up in the back of the congregation and goes, "Yeah, because we're all going to die." That is not what the Stoics would want. And that is not what they intended. Because it is not about words. It's about practice and practices. Works, not words. Epictetus really did say it best and succinctly. He wrote, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Aurelius reminded us, our worth is measured by what we devote our time and energy to. So are you killing time? Or is time killing you? My response is found in the words of that great American philosopher, Jimmy Buffett. "I'd rather die while I'm living than live while I'm dead." And I hope you feel the same way. Thank you very much.